Hello, friends, and welcome to the Blaze Bell Show. This week's guest is Meg Militello, owner of Elevated Oats. Meg opens up to us about her journey through abusive and traumatic relationships and the experiences that helped mold her into the fierce, empowered, kick-ass woman she is today. I loved hearing her story, and I know it will resonate with so many of you. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today, I'm so excited. I have Meg Militello here, the owner of Elevated Oats, and just like an all-around badass, powerful woman. And I don't know if that's how you, like, if you know you come across that way, but every time I see you online, I'm just like, oh, wow. Like you have a whole thing going on. You just have such a powerful presence. And so I'm really excited to get to know you and get to know your story a bit better today. So thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. And no, I do not know that I come across that way because people tell me I'm badass and I'm like, no.
Wow. All right. So I know, like, I've met you as this business owner, but I see little snippets here and there of life before today, and I think it's really interesting to get to learn how we got from there to here. And because I also see you as a very empowering, and like I'm at a part in my personal journey where my like big commitment of 2021 is releasing being a people pleaser.
Ooh,
And
good job.
ooh, oh my gosh, as soon as I like made the declaration, the universe is like, okay, to start practicing. Here's a bunch of people saying weird things to you, and I'm like,
Yes.
so and I just have the feeling that you've gone through some of that journey. I think all humans do, whether we're conscious of it or not. So anyway, I would love to hear some of your background and what made you this empowering person that you are today.
Well, I feel I'm on the same journey as you when it comes to like self-awareness and understanding emotions and healing through trauma and like what made you a people pleaser, right? Like that all kind of comes into play. So for me, I was in the Army, which I really didn't have a bad time being in the military compared to like some of the friends that I have, my partner. Like I know people that have been sexually assaulted and then you just never say anything or whatever the case is. So I was very fortunate to not go through super traumatic experiences during that. But it seems like every relationship that I've had has been not good. And that comes down to me being, what am I going after? Like, what am I attracting? 2 years here, 2 years here, being with someone that was married. Like, why was I doing that? I was so stupid thinking that they were going to leave me and start this life with me. It's like, why wouldn't they do the same thing to you? And then my first husband, he was in the military. I was out of the military and he was a drug addict, just on painkillers all the time, drank every single night. But it's like I was addicted to those highs and lows, and almost like I was reenacting my childhood of this emotional push and pull constantly, trying to get them to be where I wanted them to be, but really that's not how it works, right? And so I had an opportunity to get out of that relationship, and he was abusive to our dogs, and I never said anything. And so I shamed myself for like never saying anything or doing anything or never leaving for myself. Like I finally left when I got a different job and he got kicked out and was somewhere else. And I'm like, I can't do this. And I didn't want to give up, quote unquote, give up, or I didn't want to get a divorce because I watched my parents do these things. I'm like, I'm not a quitter, right? But it wasn't the right thing. And so when I left that first marriage, I went to California for the FAA to work with them, and I met my second husband. I didn't take any time to heal. I didn't take any time to look into myself or anything. It's just that I had that immediate, oh my God, this person's so much better because they're not a drug addict. Like, right? You don't really know. And It was great. Don't get me wrong. My second relationship, we were together all the time, but it still was unhealthy. Like he had a lot of trauma. I had a lot of trauma, and it was just, you're unconscious of it. You're not aware of it. And you're kind of going through the motions and doing all these things. And it's like, I was more in love with this idea of having, the white picket fence and this family and all of these things that little girls are kind of brought up thinking that this is the ideal situation. So I was always chasing this dream. And he ended up having a job in Hawaii lined up already. And I'm like, I love Hawaii. I had lived in Hawaii already for 8 years. Like that was my home. So I was like, dude, I'll gladly go back. I took a job on Oahu. He was on the Big Island. We went for like, all of this is relevant. We went for like 3 months of not seeing each other, just talking on the phones. And then we did a year of long distance. And by that point, I was like, what are we doing here? Like, what's the point of this relationship? Are we going to keep living apart, or are we trying to do this together? So I was about to be up for a supervisor position, and I have a master's in aeronautical science. Like aviation was my life. Doing air traffic control was my entire life. And I gave that up to go to this family route, like doing the things that I always wanted to do in my head, right? I want to have this family. We had over an acre of land. We turned our third floor into an Airbnb. Like I was doing entrepreneur stuff that I think I always kind of wanted to do, and picking my fruit and vegetables and kind of homesteading, making everything from scratch and just having all of this extra time. So I actually got a job with the DoD on the Big Island because I only needed 1 more year to get any sort of pension from the government. I was like, just knock out my year, get it done. That was kind of stressful because I worked around a lot of negative people. And so it was like constantly that negative energy you're dealing with. And I'm like, oh, I just don't want to do this. Let me just knock out this year. And so this was like a big change. My second husband, we had no idea, but time was going on. We started arguing a lot more, and it was something that never happened. Like we never argued, but it was like anything I said was a fight. Like no matter what, it was constantly like he was trying to come at me, to where our arguments would turn into arguing. Like, what are we arguing about even? Because now it's just a back and forth thing constantly. And then he told me he wanted a divorce, and I was just blown away. I was like, wow, I can't believe it's gotten to this point. I'm like, I'm going to go see my dad in Alaska and take like 5 days. Let's just take some time apart. Getting onto a flight, he's calling me as I'm leaving. Don't go. It's a mistake. I'm like, you know what? It's fine. I'm coming back. Like I'm coming back. Just let's take some time apart, whatever. Well, on my flight, he is calling all of these people that we know to tell me not to leave. He calls my grandparents and tells them that I'm suicidal. Really weird things started happening, right? And then I'm like, I just don't even know what's going on. And then in the next day, I'm like, hey, how are you? And then he's texting my dad, tell Megan not to talk to me. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Well, we have an Airbnb guest that's supposed to be going there. So the Airbnb guest contacts me on Airbnb. Hey, I just want to let you know there's some guy out in the yard like throwing recyclables around. And I'm trying to call my husband. He's not answering the phone. I called the neighbor. Hey, something's going on. Somebody's at our house, I guess. I don't know what's going on. The neighbor goes over there, and it's him. It is my husband doing this. The neighbor tells me this is not him. And he had a full psychotic break. And then for 3 days, we like dealing with getting the Airbnb people somewhere else. There was a homeless dude at the house that he thought was like a priest, and his grandfather that he had never met that was like watching our dogs. And it kept escalating, and nobody could do anything because the only way you could get put into any psych eval place or anything is if you're a threat to yourself or anybody else. So for 3 days of him being manic and just doing whatever he was doing, it was, couldn't do anything about it until the cops went one morning and he said he was suicidal because his wife left. They took him into the ER. Um, it's only a 3-day hold, which is interesting when you go in. So he's in the ER, he goes on this 3-day hold and lets you voluntarily say, yes, I will stay here, which he was not about. I flew back. I saw him in the psych ward, which I was just like, this is nothing I ever thought I'd be doing and nothing I really even knew about. And it was just totally different. He was not the same person, standing up on this like edge outside, just so confident and cocky, like he was just a god or something, right? And like he knew everything. I had gone with his uncle and I didn't even go home yet. Like we went from the airport to the facility. And when we went home, I was just blown away. Like the house was a complete wreck. I had built this table and there was like incense burn marks everywhere, small little shrines everywhere, weird art stuck to windows, things on the roof. My childhood photos were just scattered all over the yard. Like very strange. Like my reality completely was wiped out. Just immediately, nothing made sense to me. And I'm like, how am I supposed to do this? And I tried. He got out of the facility. I tried helping him and taking care of him. And it just, when you don't know about mental illness, the system doesn't help you either. Like the system is not set up to ensure these things are taken care of once they're out. So it was difficult. I don't even remember how long it was that he was out until he like took off again. He took my little dog to a neighbor and said that God told him that they would take better care of her than me. And I was like, that was my straw. Like, because of my first husband with the abuse of the dogs, like my hard boundary was my animals. Like I can't let that safety be an issue for them. And I think what's hard for me after going through therapy and everything is that I couldn't make that decision for myself. Like I had such a hard time, like having that love for myself to think that I deserve something better than what was kind of happening too. But I tried sticking it out. I called like care lines all the time, which really is just a counselor to listen to. Yeah. And then he ended up like just running to the airport with like no shoes on and just sweats. And they took him back to the mental facility. And after that, I was like, I can't do this. And I left. So I came to Alaska with just 2 suitcases and my dog. And I didn't even have my big dog at that point. I left him there because I felt it was better for him, my ex-husband, to have something, like maybe Poncho will help him out or whatever the case is. You're just trying to make the best judgment calls that you can as you go along. And I just had nothing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, do I go to an air traffic control job? Like, do I leave? Like I was frozen.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking it all in.
So let's pause there for a minute. That's a lot. That's really intense. And okay, I'm going to go back a little further. Back to the first husband.
Yes.
One of the things you said was that you got a job and that was like possibly you're out. And I wanted to talk about that for a minute because I think it's pretty common that women stay in abusive, toxic situations because of money, because they don't have a job, they don't have, whatever, where would they go? So was that part of that for you?
Yeah. And I didn't want to ask for help, because that's another part. I think not asking or not admitting that you're in this messed up situation. Yeah. Feeling like I can handle all my stuff. And that goes to childhood trauma for me. Like being is so independent to where I'm not asking for assistance ever. And it's just like, I got to do what I got to do. This is what I have to do. And I had thought about it. I was like, man, half of my days are worse than the other half. Like I even started marking calendars and we had a wedding planned out and I wrote him this letter and I was like, I can't have a wedding with you because it was too much for me. But yeah, definitely waited for an opportunity, which I wish I hadn't. But yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to think, like, what advice could we give to women who are in that situation right now?
Oh, support system.
Okay.
I think having a good support system is really important, and I didn't. And when you're with narcissists, they separate you from all your relationships, right? It's like you don't even realize it. And do you even have friends? Like, are you going out and doing things with other people? And I wasn't. I was so sucked in to just being in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there really is a lot of help out there. And I totally understand what you're saying of like just it's such a struggle for so many of us to ask and reach out. But there is a lot there and there are a lot of great people that we're not as separated as we think we are. I feel like, um and also I'm a big believer in like side hustles. Like there's all kinds of things out there that you can do with a very low budget, very low startup, like dive into some of these things. I'm really big on multiple streams of income and
Mm-hmm.
especially for women, especially single women, it's like have yourself set up so that when things are, 2020 was such a huge, I think, wake up call for a lot of us in that way too. It's like, oh,
Totally.
maybe that network marketing lady over there is not as annoying as I thought because she's still making money or whatever it is. It's like, okay,
Yes.
okay, let's dive into some other things. Let's look around. But yeah, the support is huge. So
Yeah.
moving forward, the psychotic break, oh my gosh, that's so stressful. And I can totally understand that, like just the shock value of it all. And the secondary trauma for you to basically see someone you love turn into someone else. It's
Oh,
just
yeah. That was.
heartbreaking. It's so sad. Um, so I'm curious, did that make you lose any trust in yourself? Like I know for me, I've gone through this where some of my exes turned out to be people I didn't think they were. And then then I go through this whole process of why didn't I see it? Shouldn't I have known something? And like, can I actually choose a good mate? Like something's going wrong. Did you feel that for a while?
100%.
Mm.
100% all of those things. Um, and this last year was my first year in therapy. So I've really been able to figure out like why I do pick the people that I do. And really it comes down to me not having boundaries. Like I grew up watching no boundaries. My parents divorced at 4. My dad remarried. My dad's gone relationship to relationship, never taking a break for himself. He's actually going through a divorce after 17 years. After I moved here and like he started growing and changing and seeing the things, and I'm teaching him what I'm learning. And then it just didn't pan out because we've been doing the same pattern constantly. Um, so I definitely don't shame myself anymore for it. It was really hard for me to trust myself. And I still get nervous. I have very bad relationship anxiety that I'm trying to work through now, just because I'm like, I can invest so much. But it's also the mindset. Now I look at it as nothing is forever. Everything is an experience. I don't regret anything I've been through. I can't say that things are good and bad because all that bad shit led me to this. It's like one thing leads to another. And it's just now I feel like I'm on the right path compared to before. I probably wasn't. Like karma was like, look, lady, you're not going the right way. You need to go this way. Oh, and not only all of this, but after he gets out of the hospital the first time, he admits that he had slept with prostitutes off of the internet. I know. I know. So then I was just like, whoa. And then he's like, the thing too is being in that mental state, you're really messed up. It's like, he's like, oh, and half of them didn't even take the money. I'm like, cool. Thanks for letting me know you're so good. Like, what are you doing to me? Like, what are you trying to do here? Do you not want me to help you? Like, I'm trying to take care of you. But yeah, it was very interesting.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, and I wouldn't even at that point, I think it'd also even be hard to believe everything. Did that happen or were you daydreaming it?
Yeah.
Like, anyway, that's yeah. Oh, that's a lot. So okay. So you come to Alaska, you're like, I can't do that. So how did the journey like how recent is this that you came to Alaska?
That was July 2019.
That's
I
recent.
That's pretty recent. I quit my job and I got on a plane the same day. Um, I got here, yeah, July 19th, and I got a business license on August 2nd. So I think for me, the idea, I had support. My dad was like, I want you to have something of your own. And I was like, okay, well, I have this granola recipe that I kind of already had this. I was flirting with the idea of manufacturing granola anyways, because I'm like, this is awesome. It's easy. It's great for you. You can use it in all these different ways. Um, and I didn't really have that support in Hawaii. And so when I came here and I got the support, instead of like me being in such a dark place, that was my whole distraction. It was just like creativity, it was like everything was flowing because I had this entire death of ego. Like my whole life was just shattered. Everything that I identified with was gone. So now it was about creating something new. And it was a struggle. It was not easy for me. I cried a lot. I felt very overwhelmed a lot. It was hard kind of switching to that learner mentality. Like, I just don't know anything about this. Like, I know aeronautics, I know air traffic control. I don't know anything about having a business. I mean, I did the Airbnb, so I kind of already had like a little bit of that entrepreneurship, but this was a totally new game. And I think the therapy and figuring out myself and learning how to approach people, learning that everybody has different things going on in their head, I think words are very important. We all say things for certain reasons. uh, so I'm really quick to analyze my own things, and I don't want to be reactionary. Like, if I'm doing something, I don't want to just be like, oh my God, I can't believe that person did that, or whatever. It's like, well, why did that person do that? Or why does it even bother me that that person did that? What is it? What is the trigger for me?
Yeah, I think, man, being a business owner it's so big. It's just, it's one of, I think, the most expansive yet challenging things a person can do. And I think a lot of people don't have the courage to even try. And so, first of all, that's amazing. Like, you're brave, you're bold. That was a lot, and to keep going. And I think a lot of people even start the process and then they're like, this is too much, like, to unpack in every level, because you've got the logistics and you've got to figure out the budget and the finance. And for your business, I mean, where are you right now? You're in like a warehouse where they're making things. And, there's just so much that goes into it. And that's not even the marketing and promoting to get it out into the world. So
Yep.
you really, especially when you're starting by yourself, it's like all of a sudden you have to be a team of 5 people with different skill sets. And
Every role.
oh my gosh, and that's a lot. Then coming back to the people pleasing thing, and that's held me back. And that's why my big thing is like, enough. Like, I'm gonna do my thing. Some people aren't gonna like it, and that gets to be totally okay. They'll go away and make room for the people that need what I have to offer.
Exactly.
But getting there is a process. And so how has that been as a business owner when you're like, people turn, rejection, you're going to get rejected, stores aren't going to sell your thing, you're maybe a friend or family member is like, I don't want to. I was like, I have to be gluten free or I'll die, because I have celiac. It's really not trendy, I'll get really sick. But
Yes, for
you're
real.
up against like all kinds of interesting things. So how is
Yes.
that, what do you do to keep moving forward?
I actually still struggle with this. Still struggle with it because I care about people's feelings, but then I'm also like, if you aren't telling them, like, they're also going to just think that they can get anything from you, and then it turns into more and more, right? So it's like protecting your energy in a way instead of giving them your energy. So I kind of see it more as like an energy distribution, right? What do you provide for me, and what can I provide for you? It needs to be an equal exchange, because if it's not, then you're going to get depleted, and that's no good. That's not where we want to be. Yeah, so it's been a struggle, but the pleasing it's like, yeah, why am I a pleaser? Am I seeking validation from these people? And this goes into personal things too, because it's everything, right? um yeah, it's difficult. The rejection from the sales. Well, I haven't focused on sales very much. I'm just now starting to feel like I'm on fire. Like everybody before kind of came to me, oh, look, your granola is great. Let me put it in my store. And I'm like, okay, cool. I didn't have to do anything, like no pressure. But in the beginning, it was hard, especially when I fought with being a perfectionist too. So having everything perfect and ready and to go, how do I want it to be? Coming up with a strategy has been huge. Like, because there are things that fit in and things that don't. If you're intentional with everything, you can't give to everybody. You can't do the things for everybody. Like, if I'm going into a business, I should know that your target audience matches with my target audience, so we're not wasting each other's time. I'm not going to go into somewhere where it just doesn't fit. Like these coffee carts, I just don't think a bag of granola would be good for the coffee carts. So we're thinking, okay, well, what could be better? Like maybe these cookies would be good, or just hot oatmeal, like in a little cup. That'd be great because that's what they're selling already. Like, why not give them something local that they can sell that does the same thing? So trying to work in the most efficient way, and people pleasing doesn't help with efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just slows us down, gets us off track, distracted, and yeah, and it always comes back to something deeper, and I've been just diving in. This week has been just so weird on that. And but I was able to identify where like all of this comes from, because it doesn't fit with like that who I consciously feel that I am today. And I'm like, why do
Yes.
I care? Like I really don't feel like I care, but I'm acting like I do. So which means subconscious, because our subconscious mind is running the show. That's
Yep.
like 95 or something percent of what we're doing is
Mm-hmm.
based on these subconscious things that often are from our childhood. We don't even remember making these decisions. And so I was able to trace it back to a traumatic event when I was 19, and then like a childhood thing just from not having a dad around, and making a decision and belief as a kid of like, okay, maybe in order for someone to stay around and remember I exist and like me, I should be really nice. How can I be really memorable? And so I like created this thing that is definitely not serving me anymore. So now it's like,
Exactly.
okay, I'll do more work. Let's get through it, But I'm
Yeah.
glad I at least figured it out and can go like, okay, little Blaze, we're gonna stop that now.
I think that's the main thing too. Like I like to say the further you go back, the further you get ahead, because
Hmm.
but you have to go through that pain too. You can't just be like, oh, it was this. It's like, well, why? Like releasing that and kind of changing your mindset, because conditioning is huge too, right? We're so conditioned to think that things, it just, that's where my relationship anxiety comes from. Being in bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship, I'm like, oh, well, this is just going to end badly. So, and then the people pleasing, how can I get them to stay and give me that nurturing and that love that I've always craved and wanted, because I didn't get that from my mother. And so it's like constantly trying to give it to me, instead of just like me giving it to myself. Because if I take care of myself the best way that I can, then I can give other people around me the best energy of me. And hopefully, the people that we want in our lives are going to exchange that information or that energy the best way.
Yeah, absolutely agree. All right, so Elevated Oats, you did come out with gluten-free recently,
Yes.
and it's so good. I need to get more. And I was trying to decide because I ordered it off your website, and then I'm like, why? I should go, also support a local shop that's selling it. So
Totally.
that's what I'm gonna do next. But the cranberry one is by far my favorite. It's like dessert, it's like, but good for you. Um, Mixing it with yogurt like that, it's the whole thing now. So
Awesome. That's great.
yeah. So tell us a little bit. Like, I mean, I really think you're blowing up. I'm seeing you in all kinds of different shops. And, you said tomorrow you're leaving to go to another city and do a big thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, just tell a little bit about like the product and where we can find it and how we can support you.
So vendors, we have our vendors listed on our website, which is really easy. If you're very green, which I like to be, Blue Market sells our stuff in bulk, which is really cool. And then down in Soldotna, the goods sell it in bulk also. So that to me is like I think initially the vision was like, man, if I could have a granola store where the only thing I sold was our granola in bulk, and then we wholesaled the bags to everybody else or whatever, that'd be great. Because then, or, you know, even compostable packaging, but that's hard to get. So vendors online, we promote all of our vendors when it comes to social media. So you'll see us talk about them. Like Roaming Root up in Fairbanks, they've been a huge support. And she's been with us since the beginning of our manufacturing journey, because we started out too as cottage food. So everything was done at home and direct to consumer. I couldn't even sell it to stores, like for them to sell. So the manufacturing is new. I think we're coming up on a year actually next month. We've only been doing it, which is nuts to me. And when it comes to the products, we just changed all the names. So Cranberry Cashew Chew used to be Velvet Beet, but beet is very deterring for people. So we're like, we're not going to tell them that beets in it. I mean, it's on the bag, you know, it has beets. But the second ingredient is beets, which is super amazing to me because the granola turns out so pretty and pink. And then beets are just really sweet. And that's why it's like freaking candy, just eating it. The most popular one, which is like our OG flavor, is banana nut bread. And really all of this kind of came into my head because I had a banana patch in Hawaii and I had too many bananas to know what to do with, that I started making anything that bananas took: granola, cakes, pies, whatever I could. And then we have a dark and, well, it used to be dark and salty. Now it's salted cocoa crunch. And that's a nice almond chocolate salty snack. That one I love just straight out of the bag. And then coconut creamsicle. That one has carrots as the second ingredient. It's from a local farm too, which adds in like color and sweetness and nice orange vanilla flavor, just very, you know, nostalgic creamsicle flavor. Ideally, we're going to be taking out the white chocolate chips next time we run the bags, just to go more with our vision. Also, because I was in Hawaii and I had a bag and I stuck my hand in it and it was like melted chocolate. I was like, no, this is not going to work outside of Alaska. So, you know, I figure we make the changes now, it'll be a little bit easier. This weekend we'll be in Fairbanks at the Sprint into Spring. And then it's like also an outdoor show and a gun show. We have a few different shows coming up in the spring. We're going to be at the Vintage Market, which, have you ever been to the Vintage Market in Palmer? Oh my gosh, I haven't been there either, but I know it has to be like our type of people place. Like this, they bring in, they have different vendors that refurbish furniture and stuff like that. So it's like a very trendy show. The summers, I don't even know what we're going to be doing in the summers. I'm trying to hire on some high school students to just work the booths in the summertime, which would be really cool. And yeah, thanks for noticing that we're blowing up. We're trying to get traction every way we can, you know, because that's part of the marketing. And I think too, for us, it's turned into not selling granola. It's about selling a lifestyle. Like I want everybody to be better every day and like live this elevated life. Like you can choose, right? Like, look at like all the shit that I just went through. Like, I am choosing now, like I am manifesting my life. This is what I want to be going on. These are the things that I want to be doing. I want to be spreading out this awesome message to as many people as I can. I want you to get healthy. I want you to eat the right things, you know, even if it's not my things, but I still want to sell that, not even sell, but I want to show people that that's possible, you know, that you can make those changes. I am is so powerful. I was just talking to my friend about this last night, how I'm like, yeah, dude, you are whatever you say you are. Because I mean, yeah, you're the only one telling your story. So all these things, like, I don't have to carry that with me anymore. Like, that's not what I'm about. Now I am a business owner that has this company that's trying to promote these things or whatever. It's not like I am whatever I was. So
Yeah, absolutely. Preach. Totally agree. And I think too, you know, also you've gone through so much, as we all have. I think
totally.
everybody has just had their journey. As I think being a human is just so weird and so full of obstacles. And but there's that point where you go, okay, there's my trauma. what's the lesson? And now I need to release everything else so I can move forward. And who do I want to be next? And you're the main character of your story. Like, do the thing. So I think that's really amazing. And yeah, I think this summer is going to be just so everyone's going to go nuts once they can like get out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we've been waiting for spring and summer in Alaska. All it's been doing is snowing every day. Like, it was like spring break, like snowed like a foot.
I was like, again? Come on.
Every morning I'm like, oh, okay, cleaning off the car again.
Yeah.
But it's coming. And also, people are getting vaccinated. COVID is moving in another direction. And so I think people at all of these booths and fairs throughout the spring and summer is going to be huge. Everyone's going to be like so ready to get out of the house.
Yeah, totally.
So I think it'll be a lot of fun. And I also want to say for other like business owners listening, so it's been less than a year and you've rebranded once. And I want to mention that because I think you talked about being a perfectionist. And I think that holds people back so much where it's like, start before you're ready. Obviously, perfect your recipe. Give us something delicious. But people can get stuck on a font. It's like, I don't like that logo. I can't start it. It's like, no, you are in charge and you can rebrand and make it look however you want, whenever you want. Like, let's not wait. Start before you're ready or it's not going to happen,
Yes.
So I think
something funny about that. I was talking to my friend and I said, oh, I can't, because there's already things we want to change on these bags, right? We're like, man, why didn't we think of that or do that, whatever. I'm like, well, on the next run, that's what we have to change. And so I'm talking to my friend and I'm like, I'm just kind of shaming myself for, feeling like, I feel like I should have known. Like I should have known these things and made those changes. And he's like, do you know how many times Coca-Cola has come out with something different? And I'm like, you're right. And I tell my team all the time, this is a giant experiment. That is all we are doing. Everything is an experiment. How are we going to get these people to buy our stuff? How are we going to get into these stores? How can we make our packaging look better? How can, everything is just, you just try and you learn, but that's part of that learner mindset, right? And like not being attached, like separating yourself from attachment is huge.
Yeah, that's big. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Meg. I'm really grateful for you sharing your story and more parts of your life. I think it's just so helpful for women. I think we all are hopefully trying to help someone who's us a few steps back and getting help from us a few steps ahead, and being able to go, wow, okay, I'm in some part of Meg's story right now, but now I see hope that there's something else ahead. And so I think that's really beautiful. So thank you. And I'll make sure that they have links to everything. Elevated Oats. Is it elevatedoats.com? What's the website?
Oh yeah, super easy. Elevated Oats at everything.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'll make sure we all know where to find you. And thanks so much.
Thanks, Blaze. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Let's continue this conversation in the comments, and for more healing resources, please visit blazebell.com. You are worthy, you are loved, and I am so, so grateful for you. See you next time.